Fantastic Four First Steps movie review. It takes a family to save the world. That's a little slogan I came up with. Could have been the slogan for the actual movie. Warning, this review may contain spoilers. If you haven't seen the movie before, I highly recommend you do before reading this. Finally, on the fourth try, Marvel and Disney have made a good, accurate movie with Marvel's first family in it. Yes, there were actually 4 attempts at a Fantastic Four movie before this one. Long before the Tim Story and Josh Trank movies, there was one in the 1980s, and it had legendary B-movie pioneer Roger Corman attached to it. Unfortunately, that one was never officially released to the public, so most people don't like to count that one. But I do know that there was a documentary about it called Doomed. It talked about the making of the movie, what happened to it, and what all the actors and crew attached to it went on to do afterwards. I still find it very unfortunate that it took Hollywood this long to make a good Fantastic Four movie, because those characters set the foreground for what the Marvel Universe would eventually become. Had those comics flopped, all the characters we love today, Spider-Man, Captain America, Iron Man, Wolverine, and so on, would never have even existed. Way back in the 1960s, Marvel wasn't known for superhero stories just yet. They were doing more monster comics and paranormal stories. Until the head editor at the time saw that DC Comics was doing quite well with Superman, Batman, and the Justice League comics. So he called Stan Lee and Jack Kirby to his office and asked them to create their own superhero team. A group that could easily compete with DC's Justice League. And that's when Stan first got the idea of doing more human superhero stories. Showing what they do when they're not saving the world, what struggles they have in their downtime, and the rest is pretty much history. Much like the superhero movies we've been getting lately, this one skips the origin part of the Fantastic Four. Not only because we've seen it 3 times, but because, in my opinion, the origin story doesn't really matter. Before they were affected by cosmic rays, they were all brave scientists/explorers, and afterwards they continue being brave scientists/explorers. There isn't really a traumatic event here. Nobody loses their parents, there's no Uncle Ben moment, no one's lost of their kind on a new planet, etc. Everyone does a good job with what the role they were given, but if I could give one nitpick, it would be Johnny Storm. Nothing against Joseph Quinn personally, but the way they wrote his character feels off to me. He is not the arrogant, hot-headed, womanizing jerk that Chris Evans was. When Ben and Johnny first realize that Susan is pregnant, he is genuinely excited and happy for them. He says to his sister, "You are going to be an amazing mom," and then he goes, "Ben and I are going to be the best uncles." And then he says to Pedro Pascal, "You are incredibly out of your depth." And I'm like, okay, that is something that Chris Evans would do. I just feel like Chris wouldn't, but I still feel like Chris wouldn't be that happy for his sister. This is a much more based iteration of the character. The effects as a whole are pretty good. Reed's stretching looks pretty convincing, so does Johnny when he's in his Human Torch mode. Ben Grimm looks almost identical to the comics, and like he's actually made out of rocks. He's like a Jack Kirby drawing come to life, essentially. However, when Susan Storm uses her Invisible Woman powers, it doesn't look as good as the others. I feel like the other members of the Fantastic Four were given way more attention in the effects department. This is our first introduction to Galactus and the Silver Surfer. We probably will see them again at some point. After all, Reed's teleported did was transport them to somewhere else. They are not technically dead. Galactus wants Reed and Sue's son Franklin, named after Susan's father, because he can sense the power cosmic in the body, and he's the only one who can take over his role as devouring worlds, and Galactus can finally rest. In the comics, Reed and Susan actually do have a son named Franklin. He is what they call an Omega level mutant because he has the ability to create worlds and universes. I believe they also have a daughter named Valeria as well, although I'm not sure where they got the name Valeria from. As I said before, the effects on Ben Grimm are quite convincing, as well as the acting by Ebon Moss-Bachrach. Apologies if I'm mispronouncing that. He does get to say his trademark catchphrase, "It's clobbering time," even though he adamantly refuses to throughout most of the movie. It's very much a say the line Bart moment, but it works here. One other little thing, there's a couple of scenes near the end where he has a rock beard. He has to like file it down, like what Hellboy does with his horn, so it can blend in better. Conclusion. Marvel and Disney managed to pull off making a good and accurate Fantastic Four movie, but it still doesn't answer how they will fit into the MCU moving forward, come Doomsday and Secret Wars. I guess since this whole thing is leading out to an all-out multiversal war, then I suppose their world, Earth 828, will be affected too.